Okay, and we are recording. So, right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm your host, Toya Nicole, and welcome to another episode of Travel, Pray, Slay. So, I am back with another interview. Y'all know how excited I am about these interviews, and I'm super excited about today because I am joined by Nicole. I call her Nikki. She also goes by Nikki as well. And so a fellow Nicole is joining us, and I've known Nicole, wow, for years. We go way back to my Chicago days. And Nicole is going to be joining us for a topic that I'm super excited about. And Nicole, why don't you start off by telling everyone who you are and a little bit about your brand, Rich Energy.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I am Nicole. I have many titles: wife, mom, daughter, sister, friend. I am the owner of Rich Energy, a young brand. Right now, we're doing clothing, but slowly moving towards being more of a lifestyle brand, giving off that rich energy and fancy lifestyle.
Okay, so I want to know more about this because, like I said, you and I have known each other for years. And, I have not lived in Chicago for going on like 4 years now. I miss it since I've been back in Texas. So, really haven't talked much, but of course, still connected on social media. And so I just started seeing all this rich energy and rich chick and all this stuff. And so I was like, what Nicole got going on? So tell me a little bit about what inspired you to start Rich Energy.
Absolutely. So, towards the end of 2018, I had to have a come to Jesus talk with myself about
Come
my
on
finances because I just had been out here wilding and just not doing what I needed to do.
Uh-huh.
And so, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I'm putting together a group. We're going to hold each other accountable financially. We're going to get our finances in order." And I was like, "Come on, God, look at
Yes.
you, Lord. You knew I needed this." So I spent all of 2019 getting my finances back on track.
Mm.
And at the end of 2019, as we were transitioning to 2020, I saw a meme on Instagram that was like, "Rich Energy all 2020." And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yes,
Yes.
because I spent all of 2019 being broke and just trying to get things together. Because I had gotten so far off track, I was like, yes, this has
Yeah.
arrived and we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna live our best life,
Yes.
and we're gonna live, abundantly, responsibly, but abundantly,
Mm-hmm.
all 2020.
Yes. I love it. So okay, so you were in a place where you were like, I'm tired of, so if you hear us kind of like pausing, we don't want the explicit label on the podcast. So we'll just refer to it as Bish. So as she was saying earlier, she, realized, I can't be in this broke Bish. I want to be hashtag rich Bish. And that is what we're talking about. So you got it together. And I love this concept of that. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the podcast is I wanted to talk about this concept of women, especially Black women, normalizing luxury in our life. It is a theme, like you said, how you started seeing a lot around like rich Bish. I have been seeing a lot of themes around normalizing luxury in our life. And so a couple of things on like social media. So like there's one post that was saying, "Dear women, if you can get a housekeeper, get one. If you can get a cook, please get one. If you can get a driver, please get one. Always look for easier ways to do things. Your womanhood should not be suffering. Normalize luxury in your life. Preserve yourself." And so I was
Absolutely.
like, Yes, yes, and yes. And then you posted on the Rich Rich Energy Instagram, normalize Black women living in luxury and not calling them bougie for it. And so I was like, okay, Nicole is the person who we need to have this conversation about. So that's kind of what kicked this off. And I too started kind of focusing more on my finances, but really this concept. So, can we talk about this concept of normalizing luxury in your life? And why do you think that's so important, especially for women of color?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things is people often think luxury and they think expensive. Luxury doesn't have to always be expensive. One of the things for me, especially this year, I realized I live a pretty privileged life. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yes, I'm a Black woman and I live in America, obvious,
Yeah.
but I still live a pretty privileged life. I have a two household income. I grew up in a two household income. I'm college educated, graduate school, licensure in my profession. I live a pretty privileged life, and those privileges allow me certain freedoms.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't be ashamed to live fully in those freedoms. So for me, luxury is anything that enhances my life and makes my life better or makes my
Mm.
life easier. It's not about the cost per se.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But why shouldn't I take advantage of the privileges that my life offers me?
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the things I thought about this week, I was catching up on Queen Sugar, and it was the episode surrounding George Floyd.
Yeah.
And Ralph Angel made this statement like, well, we deserve rest too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's like, yeah, we do. And we deserve luxury too. You
Yeah.
know, I don't believe that God put me here just to work and pay bills. He put me here to live an abundant and full life. And why should I do that in shame?
Yeah. Say that again. God did not put you here for what?
He did not put me here to just work and pay bills. He put me here to live a life abundantly, fully, and richly, and
Yes.
without shame.
Yes. And that's Bible. John 10:10. For you all, that is scripture. I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. And you probably hear me say that a lot on the podcast because it's actually one of my favorite verses. And I think it's so applicable to so many things. And to your point, yes, God wants us to live abundantly. What's the other scripture in Ephesians, where it talks about God do exceedingly abundantly above all I can think of and ask, right? So I
Mhm.
love the point that you made too, that it doesn't have to be a cost to it, right?
Right.
And you touched on a few things because you talked about privilege, right? And recognizing certain privileges and freedoms that we have. And that is true. Again, same, college educated. I grew up in a single parent household. But I tell a lot of people we were, middle class, and my mother worked
Mhm.
hard, and there were a lot of opportunities that afforded her to be in a position of being a middle class later in life. But my mother was not always like that. My mother got married in 19 and had three kids like back to back. Well, I'm a oopsie baby. And so by the time my mother had me, she was 38. Both of my parents were 38, which is now it's kind of like the norm to have kids that age, but back then it wasn't. So she was in a different stage of life. And so it's funny, my
Absolutely.
siblings have a different experience growing up than I did, right? So there are certain things that you're right that are just like normal and natural for me that they see as like, oh well, we never went to Disney World when we were 7 years old or whatever. Like, oops,
But your
I'm
parents were at a different place.
exactly. They were at a different place. And so yeah, so back to like this meme, especially the one that talks about like things that we can do. Like it's not expensive to get somebody to clean your house. Like I promise you, like when I've lived in a home, when I've lived in an apartment, I have had experience with housekeepers with both. And I mean, as low as $75 and as high as $120. You know, think about
Right.
all the things that we spend that amount of money on, just on anything, right? And so I think sometimes we have to get over the stigma. So going back to the other thing that you posted, normalizing and not calling us bougie for it. Do you think some women are held back from experiencing those kind of things because they are afraid how they'll be labeled or what other people may say?
Absolutely. You know, bougie has this negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
When reality, it just means having high standards. And there's nothing wrong with having high standards. I think I made another post like, rich babe has standards.
Yep.
You
Mm-hmm.
should have high standards
Yeah.
for yourself and for those that you invite into your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Like, but because, you know, being called bougie has this negative connotation, it's like, well, I don't want to seem like I'm bougie or, you know, I'm not keeping it real, you know, humble brag. Like,
Right.
no,
No,
sis,
just brag. Just
brag,
regular brag.
hype yourself up. Because if you
Exactly.
not, guess what? I will. Yes, sis, you
Yes,
did that. Look
exactly.
at you.
Yeah. And, I think too, obviously, this is a travel focused podcast. And so when I first started talking about travel, it was on my blog in 2012. And that was actually my tagline. It used to be called Miss Travel Chic. Those were around the days when me and you met,
Yes.
actually. And my tagline was travel smart with style, because I was all about helping people to see that you can have nice experiences, stylish experiences,
Mhm.
luxury experiences, but you can be smart about it, right? And so there are a lot of things that we have at our disposal that we don't even know, right? Take, for instance, a credit card, right? You can have a credit card that's earning you points, and you don't even realize that those points can get you hotel discounts
Mhm.
or free hotel stays, or you can use that money and cash back, and you can use that cash to book that trip to Dubai, right?
Right.
And so it was things like that, or, taking advantage of special offers. Listen, I have a lot of designer things. I did not pay full price for probably 95% of them because I will get something on a discount. I will wait for a clearance
Mhm.
in a minute, right? I talked about this on an earlier podcast. When I went to Italy, and we went to Florence, which is where Gucci is out of. They have an outlet. Baby, we was down to those outlets. Roberto Cavalli, Prada, Gucci, any designer you can think of. And I have no shame in
Listen,
getting my stuff on a discount.
and you shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't steal it. You wasn't
Nope.
out here scamming and jamming to get it.
Scamming and jamming.
Listen,
I didn't have to do nothing strange for a piece of change, sis. I did
listen.
not.
You didn't get you a sugar daddy over there, now did you?
No, I didn't come back with a sugar daddy, maybe a zaddy, but no, I was just joking. But again, that in itself, right, was a luxury experience. Going to
Absolutely.
Italy, right, having all that. So, but it did not break my bank, right? As a matter of fact, when we booked that trip, my friends and I that went, we already knew we wanted to go. We had narrowed down the people that we wanted to go with. And I was like, oh, peep, y'all, they do a Black Friday sale. Let's wait to book to where we can get. And everybody was like, bet, and again, like you, these were all my friends, college educated, working good jobs at the time, all those kind of things like that. All of us could afford to pay full price, but why? Because money that I saved there, okay, that gave me more extra change to ball out at the Gucci outlet, to
Right.
have the fancy dinners once we got over there or whatever. So be smart about it, right? I think sometimes people can look at certain things and think, oh, I can't afford that, right? First class, I'll give that as another example, travel related. When I used to work in corporate America in the sales industry, Man, I travel so much for work that, I was like executive platinum on American Airlines. And it gave me the ability to upgrade to first class all the time. But even now, especially during COVID, because, even though people act like COVID is over, until 2022, we just need to keep saying because of COVID. So,
Right. We are still in the middle of a panduche. Okay.
exactly. It's a whole Panasonic out here. And yes, I'm fully vaccinated, but the rules still apply. But the COVID rules still apply. But because airlines, have been broke for so long, I mean, I traveled to California recently and we booked a regular flight. But when I went to check in, it was like upgrade to first class, only like $95. That's simple
Done.
math. That's simple math.
Done.
Yeah. So you can catch a deal like that, and I mean, sure, you can pause and think, well, no, the $95 is worth it. In several reasons right now because of the Panasonic that we're in.
I'm not sitting next to anybody.
Mm-mm. And if I have to sit next to somebody, it's at least enough space here,
Right.
and I get to have a glass of champagne while I'm,
That part.
dealing with all this anxiety of being on this plane. But yeah, there's that experience that's there. And I don't want people to always think that it has a cost to it. But let's talk about when things do have a cost to it.
Yeah.
Why should we? Because as much as I'm talking about discount and all that, there have been times where I have walked right on in, no discount, ready to pay full price too. And so what do you think is available to women too when they open up their self to just, experiencing luxury and knowing that there is a cost to it?
There's a freedom there. I think there's definitely a freedom there because we work, we work hard.
Yep.
Black women are the most educated group in America. We are starting businesses faster than any other group. It's okay to treat yourself. Like as you hit milestones or goals, it's okay to treat yourself and say, you know what, I deserve this. I've worked my tail off to get this, and don't do it with any shame. I mean, I haven't done it as much recently, but definitely when I was younger, if I wanted it, listen,
it's fine. I'll take it.
It's mine. Thank you. Can you please wrap that up in a thanks?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So definitely there's a freedom there of treating yourself. And even, listen, even if it's not you treating yourself and it's somebody else treating you, that's okay.
Sis.
Listen.
Okay, now you are right. So I'm dating, but I ain't about to get out of my business on this podcast. Y'all know that, right? But anyway, I will say this, and I want you to talk about this from a married woman's perspective too. But and I'm dating, just one person right now. But in the past, I can recall a time where I was like dating someone and we were on a trip. And I remember like we were at this restaurant and he was like, oh yeah, we'll have whatever bottle and when I looked at the bottle, it was like a nice bottle of Pinot Noir or whatever, but it was like $70. And I remember almost being like, nah, we should, and I was just like, oh yeah. And for a moment there, I was like, yeah, that sounds good to me, babe. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Pour me a glass.
Yes.
Expeditiously.
Thank you. So you're right. Even when it's not our money being spent and someone is treating us, you're right. I think we sometimes still have that tendency to be like, are you sure or whatever? And my leveled up self, in that moment was like, yep. Would I maybe, have bought the $70 bottle of wine out to dinner? Because this wasn't like we weren't celebrating or whatever.
Right.
But like for him, that's, so it's just like, we can sometimes get in the way of other people's, rich energy with our broke mindsets sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like it's okay if other people want to treat you.
Yeah.
You're not demanding it.
Mm-hmm.
Accept it graciously.
Yep.
The universe is blessing you, God is blessing you.
Mm-hmm.
Take that and say thank you, because now you're probably opening up more opportunities for that to happen in your life.
Yeah.
Like, now
Yeah.
you want to treat me nicely? Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I welcome it with gratitude.
Exactly. And it goes back to what you said too about standards, right? We teach people how to treat us. And
Absolutely.
so there is a level of when you accept those things from people and then you make it like almost like that's the norm.
Hmm.
They, in a sense, people around you, and I'm not even just talking about like dating, they, in a sense, have to level up too, because it's just like, okay, this is what she's saying is a standard. It's a standard for me to buy her roses often.
Yes.
It's a standard for me to treat her to nice dinners. It's a standard for me, right? Because you have started to showcase that, in a sense, it wasn't like you appreciate it, but you don't make it like, oh my God, no one has ever like spent this much money on me or whatever.
Hmm.
You put those standards in place, right? So what would you say are, because like you said, rich with high standard, or how did you say it? I don't want to misquote you.
Rich babe, high standards.
Thank you. Rich babe, high standards. So as it relates to standards, what are some of those high standards if you do want to invite that rich energy in your life and level up? What are some standards that we should be tweaking?
So, one, not feeling guilty or ashamed because
Mhm.
you are able to do nice things for yourself or for others.
Yeah.
Not worrying about that stigmatism. If somebody calls you bougie, yes. Hello, I'm Whitley Gilbert. Yes,
Yes.
I am. Yes, I am.
Mhm.
Hello, Dominique Devereaux. Yes, I am.
Yes.
Like, just not taking other people's projections and
Yeah.
internalizing them. Like, coming to the place where, like, no, I deserve this.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm not accepting anything less. I know my worth,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to take anything less. I know how powerful I am, and I'm not going to, be anything less than that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expensive, and that's okay.
Yeah. And I know I've heard this term before, and I can't recall who to attribute it to. Oh, never mind, it just came to me. Brene Brown, who I love, and not even as it relates to standards, but even when she talks about just like our confidence, which I think
Mhm.
has a lot to do with our standards, right? Because if you're not very confident, you're operating usually out of fear, which means you have a scarcity mindset, right? And you're not thinking abundantly. But she talks about hustling for our worth, right?
Mm,
And I think that's what happens, right? When it's like, I know my worth, you know what you're worth, period. And so not allowing anybody to assign that to you, when somebody doesn't live up to your standards, being able to just walk away and be like, well, I ain't tolerating this, so bye, you know,
right.
without a fuss. Because I'm not gonna hustle for my worth. Like, I know what it's about, right? And so, people always use this analogy of like, yes, if you're down to the flea market and they have an item you want, you can probably talk them down to, okay, what if about two of them for 25 instead of two for 30? But
Right.
what if, this? And I've done that. When I go to Cabo, there are these cute little markets all around the marina. And, when I want to get souvenirs or whatever, usually something for my
Hmm.
nieces, goddaughters, whatever, somebody want a t-shirt back. I mean, you'll look at a shirt, right? And it'll be like $15. Okay, you keep walking. Senorita, and I'm like, well, I'm looking. Hey, what about this? You want this shot glass plus the t-shirt? I give it to you for 15, right? You
Right.
don't walk in the Chanel store. They're not negotiating with you. They're not trying to hustle for you. And
Hmm.
people know that, right? I know when I step into those markets, I can negotiate, right? I'm going in here with
Right.
$20 and we're going to see. But when you step into Cartier or Louis Vuitton, you better have full price plus tax. And you know that, right? And
Know it
so
going in.
exactly, because they have set that standard, right? And so it's about us setting those standards in our life too, that when someone steps to you, they know they have to come correct because you have not been negotiating your worth with them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there was something Lovey said, and I actually made it into one of the shirts that's on my website.
Mm-hmm.
Normalize being expensive. Now, she was talking about salaries, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes women don't negotiate, especially I feel like Black women, we don't always negotiate for
Yep.
what we're worth. We'll accept whatever is offered to us.
Yep.
And it's like, no, I know I'm going to, work. I know I'm going to do the work. I know I'm going to bring a certain level of quality.
Mm-hmm.
Pay me my worth. This is what I'm worth.
Yep.
Don't pay me any less. And if they're willing to pay you less, you don't have to accept it
That's
because
right.
there is somebody else out there who's willing to pay you what you're worth. So it's okay if you're expensive.
Yep.
You're a speaker, you have certain fees, or you're a consultant, you're knowledgeable in this certain area, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is, know your worth, own that worth, charge that worth, and add tax to it.
Exactly.
And
That's
if
what I was
needed,
about
add
to say.
shipping and handling.
Right. And a concierge fee to it as well too.
Listen,
We can
listen.
keep adding right to this or whatever. So I love that. So I was looking at your Instagram and you have something called Fancy Friday,
Yes.
and I love it. So tell us a little bit about Fancy Friday and just some practical ways. I know we've touched on it a little, but what are some practical ways that we can kind of like add in that luxury to our life?
Yeah, absolutely. So Fancy Friday obviously is done every Friday, and it just kind of depends. Like it started with me. So Thanksgiving, I hosted a very small, because again, we're still in the Panduche, very
Exactly.
small Thanksgiving at my house. So it literally was me, my husband, our two children, and my parents. That's
Mhm.
it. But I love to host and I love having events. And so I was like, I'm decorating my table
Yeah.
because it makes me feel good.
Hmm.
And so, when on Pinterest, I was like, let me see how to fold these napkins, up really nice. And so I did it and I sent it to like my friends and one of my cousins. I was like, you have to show people how to do this. And
Yeah.
so Fancy Friday just really became me like doing these short reels of things that I do around the house. So there's one, coming up soon uh, that'll display a new spring table for me. And so just really just little things that I do, my little fancy champagnes or
Yeah.
my Prosecco's, my
Hmm.
spritzers that I make. So sometimes, it's me making a fancy drink. Other times it's me decorating the table or showing how to cut my flowers and, how I set my vases up. Just
Yeah.
little things that really do enhance your life that don't have to be expensive. Like you, I love flowers. My
Yeah.
husband is pretty good about giving them to me, but I also buy them for myself. Like I have
Absolutely.
no shame of going into Costco or the florist or wherever and getting me a nice bunch of flowers and, cutting them up, putting them in a vase in the living room or in the dining room or whatever. And it doesn't have to be expensive. Like Aldi has flowers for like $4. And they're nice. So
Trader
you don't have,
Joe's.
again, listen,
Hmm.
Trader Joe's has some
Yep.
for $5 or $6.
Yep.
Again, it doesn't have to be expensive um, to be a luxury. It really is just about how it enhances your life, how it makes your life easier
Yeah.
or better in some sort of way. Like I have a friend, she takes midday baths.
Hmm.
A
Hmm.
bath costs you nothing,
$0. The
but
cost of Dr. Teal's foot soaking back to Epsom
exactly,
salt. That's what it costs you. 4.99 at
exactly,
Target.
exactly. But the luxury that it brings to her life
Yes.
is priceless.
Hmm.
It's priceless. So it doesn't always have to be a high cost.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is treating yourself to a pedicure.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's that treating yourself to a pedicure at a spa, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love what you said about the flowers and that, because that has been one thing for me. when I moved into my new place, I really like officially have like a area set aside for like dining and all of this stuff. And I have bought this beautiful vase, and I was like, I am going to commit to keeping fresh flowers in my place every week. And to your point, I started out like, and I was just like, I discovered the flowers at Trader Joe's. And one of my favorite flowers now to use is the Alstremia. And it's mainly because they last up to 3 weeks. And so what I thought I was going to be spending once a week, I'm really only buying fresh flowers every 2 to 3 weeks. And at Trader Joe's, it's like $6. And I've like started playing with it. But there is something about like walking into that room or, and seeing those beautiful flowers that does something for me.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it enhances my home. So it's the atmosphere that I create, right? Another practical thing for me was around just like simple things like my glassware, right? Yes. Getting really nice wine glasses. And for some reason, I just decided I wanted really nice champagne glasses. And I was telling my sister, and she actually gifted me those like around 2 years ago for Christmas. She was like, I remember you saying you wanted. I was like, yes. And so I started doing like mimosa Sundays, like while we, with COVID, stay at home, you couldn't go anywhere again, whole pandemic, Panasonic, or whatever we want to call it. And on my mimosa Sundays, it was bringing out the nice champagne glasses, like you said, my Prosecco, my whatever. And it's just nice. Of course, I'm sitting at home. Could I drink out of a paper cup if I want to? Could I drink out of any
you
glass?
could, but why?
Exactly. But why? But why?
Absolutely.
And we have nice things and we don't always spend them. Like another one, I hear a lot of people talk about this is, everybody had a mama or a grandmama that had the fine china in the cabinet. You never brought it out, maybe, on Christmas or the holidays. But even that, like I have a friend who like once a week, she'll eat off her fine china because it's mine. And you shouldn't have to wait for a reason. And I think sometimes we'll say, when is my birthday? I'll do first class, or I'll do something fancy, or I'll do something nice for myself. And if anything, this last year has taught us is that life is short, right?
Yes, it is.
And so you want to have those experiences now. I started doing bubble baths as well too. And it is, I love the idea of doing that midday. That's even better. Mine became like a Sunday thing. And it was like a Sunday evening, and I would do the whole, get my Dr. Teal's, get my bubble, and I'm talking bubble bath. I'm a bubble bath person. And I would candles, nice champagne, I would bring out my fancy stuff. And again, that's just me. And so I feel like part of this is about like that normalizing this luxury and this energy around you is also a great form of self-care too.
Absolutely. It absolutely is, because after you take those bubble baths and you've had your glass of, Prosecco or champagne or whatever, you feel different.
Yeah.
You have a new sense about you. And it's like, I like this. And why shouldn't you always have that feeling of feeling good about yourself and what you've accomplished and, what you hope to accomplish as well.
And I think we have to continue to support others in that, right? So like you said, that's the whole point of normalizing this. And to your point, so when you see somebody and she's flossing her Chanel bag, love the bag, sis, and I think sometimes we tend to be like, oh, she trying to, flex or whatever. Girl, don't nobody care about that Chanel or whatever. I remember I posted something recently and I literally was showing off maybe something, but I was sitting in my car and I took a picture of it. And I have a Mercedes Benz, and somebody commented, oh, are you trying to, show us whatever, or is this like a flex or whatever? And I'm like, no, because at this point, it's just normal for me to have a Benz. Second of all, why would I try to do that? also, and I think that's how I responded. I was like, nope, I was just showing you whatever. Like I didn't even feed into that energy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to get past that as well too. And I know she meant it cheekingly. Because but we have to think like what makes us say that, right? What
Right.
makes us want to call out something when we do see a luxury item? Yes, a Mercedes Benz is a luxury car. Got it. One of the reasons why I own one, right? Needed to normalize that in my life. Hashtag I deserve.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, I'm unashamed about the fact that it's a pre-owned Mercedes Benz, right? And even whether it's pre-owned or right off the lot, I wanted a nice, reliable luxury car. And just because I'm posting things in my everyday life does not mean that I'm always trying to flex, right?
Right.
And so if somebody's posting something and they're on their date night and the Chanel bag just happens to be hanging off their shoulder, don't always think somebody's trying to throw their luxury in your face either as well, because in their world, it's normal.
Right. Well, and to your point, that person hasn't normalized having those things as a luxury and not having to flex. And even if you were flexing and
Yeah. Yeah.
you pay your note you pay your note on time, you pay it in full.
We're all good here, honey.
Listen, is your car paid and owned by you? Then flex,
Yeah.
sis.
Yeah.
Flex.
Yeah. And so, it's just funny when, and again, my mindset is in a different place, right?
Right.
And so I can see something like that, understand that, okay, this person is in a different mindset. It's okay. I'm not offended. I'll redirect you to remind you that I'm just posting this. I'm not trying to flex. But like you
Right.
said, if I wanted to, if I'm flexing, you'll know.
That part. That part. Trust me, there will be no misunderstandings. Oh, she's flexing today.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
One of my favorite lines from Meg the Stallion, shout out to Houston, Texas, is in one of her songs where she says, and it's always like a lyric where you're like, oh, I can't wait for the perfect picture to use this as a caption.
Yes.
I'm waiting. Like in my mind, I already know like the picture I want to take, but she says, before I post the pic, should I flex? Yeah, I should.
Right.
Because the song is called Money Good. And that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what she's talking about. My money is good. And before I post this, should I flex? Oh, yeah, I should, without question. And it's
Listen.
just like, that I love that line. That sticks out to me so much. And I'm like, oh, I'm just waiting for the perfect, rich energy type of
Yes.
post to use for that, because it's that same philosophy, right? We may think like, well, should I flex? And it's just like, nope, don't question it. Should I brag? Yep, you should always brag. Should I floss? Yep, you should always
Yep.
floss. And
Absolutely.
you're not trying to floss to make anyone feel a certain way. It should be to, in fact, help others level up and be like,
Right.
you too.
Yeah, I think I saw something earlier this week or maybe last week where it was like, I want to live this way so that I inspire other people to be like, well, if she did it, I
Yep.
can too.
Yep. Absolutely.
I can too.
Yep.
Another thing, people should assume if I'm bragging, if I'm flexing, no, I'm really bragging on God. Because there's
Amen.
nothing that I've done for real.
Exactly.
I'm really flexing because God has
Mhm.
hooked me up in some sort of way. I'm
Yeah,
really bragging on how good He's been to me.
exactly.
So listen, if He could do it for me, He
Hmm.
can do it for you.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You're right. When you know someone's character, when you know their story, when you know how
Hmm.
hard they worked, how hard they prayed, those are things that we should be happy about. When I see my fellow sisters doing it big, buying their Pelotons, going on their fancy trips, having these like luxury experience. Yes. Yes. I have a friend who went to Greece. I've been to Greece too. But her and her friend, did a photo shoot over there in
Mm.
Santorini. Absolutely beautiful photos. A wonderful way to commemorate. And I'm like, yes, do that. Beautiful, like dress, like you're going to have that experience and that beautiful picture forever. When I went to Paris, and I think I've talked about this before, me and my friend did a photo shoot. Same thing. And I mean, you should have saw the look on some people's faces seeing this photographer follow two Black women around Paris taking these
Who
pictures. I'm
are
sure,
they?
yeah. Is
Who
that
are they?
Aubrey Dale? Is that
That is that Beyonce and Kelly? What they
right?
doing?
Right. It gotta be some celebrities. No, two sister girls from Chicago and Milwaukee that are over here that are determined to just provide themselves, an experience or whatever. And my friend owns a travel business, and she was doing photos for her business, and I was coming along for the trip, and she was like, yeah girl. So I was like, whatever, I want to take some too. And that was just an experience, right? I mean, he literally was following us around to the cafe, to the gardens, to whatever, taking all these photos or whatever. And that again, a flex or whatever, you can call it whatever, but it's just like we should encourage more of that. And when we
Absolutely.
see others, don't call them bougie, ladies. Don't say they
Yeah.
flexing,
Fellas.
jealous. Yeah, no, and no need to be jealous either. It's simply because of that. And another thing, there's a blogger I follow, Funky Dineva. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
I
Yes.
love him. And to your point about knowing somebody's story, I mean, I've been watching his videos for, I think, going on 7 or 8 years. And so
Hmm.
I can remember when he was, just in his little apartment in Atlanta with bad wigs or whatever. And he's done really, really well for himself on YouTube. And so he'll post, expensive things he's buying. And there's always people in the comments, well, you just bragging, or, oh, you can tell, you got new money, or, you rich now, but watch out, you're going to be broke if you spending this. And he finally was like, I want to shut all of y'all down. And he posted his YouTube revenue. And one thing he said is, he was like, one, I shouldn't have to post this because you shouldn't be counting my money, but I
Right.
can do this. Two, I'm not broke. Three, I have come a long way. And I'm not used to this. You're right. He was like, you're right. I'm not used to this. This is new for me, and I'm going to enjoy it, because who
Listen.
knows if I won't ever have it again. So again, can we normalize people leveling up and getting to a good place in life where now they can enjoy fancy things? And he goes out on boats, and let him post about it. And I think I commented, I was like, I am proud of you, because I can remember watching you. And if anything, it should encourage you to, why don't you start a YouTube channel then, so that you see he's put
Listen.
in the work, he stayed consistent, God is blessing him, and then you'll be posting yourself on a boat too.
Listen. You and your friends can rent a boat now.
Exactly. So yeah, so it's just like when I see stuff like that, I am glad that my mindset is in a different place now, where instead of thinking that this person is trying to rub it in somebody's face, really just being like, that's great, let's normalize. When you live, he lives in Miami Beach, yeah, you should be on a boat every Sunday enjoying that
Listen.
weather.
Take advantage of the
Mhm.
privileges and the freedoms that your life allows.
Exactly. So I want to pivot as we start to wrap up, talking a little bit about travel. So what have been some of your favorite travel experiences?
Absolutely. So, most recently, my homegirls, my girlfriends, and I went down to Nashville. And I was like, Nashville.
That's on my
But a
list
good
though. I have never been.
Nashville, listen, Nashville was a good time.
Okay, we
Okay.
gonna talk sidebar whenever I get ready to go.
Nashville was a good time. But we flew down to surprise one of our girlfriends for her birthday. She had absolutely no idea. And when I tell you,
Oh.
we had an absolute ball. We got a beautiful hotel. We
Mhm.
had three connecting rooms. So, nobody was doubling up in beds because,
Uh-huh.
listen, we too old for that.
Also, Exactly.
We're too old for that.
Right.
And so, we decorated the rooms. I think that was one of the most recent Fancy Friday reels that I did. Decorated the room
Nice.
and just had a great time, really celebrating her and all of her accomplishments, not just her birthday, but all of the accomplishments and the ways that God has blessed her. And so Nashville was great. Listen, the only thing Nashville owes me is another trip because it was that
Okay.
good. It
Well,
was that good.
I am adding it to my list. And that's good that you all can have a good time, even with, COVID and
Right.
everything and things not being all the way open. So I know when we bust it wide open that Nashville will really be a good time.
Definitely, yeah, it definitely was a good time. And of course, we did it safe. Everybody
Yeah.
got tested beforehand. And at that point, I had gotten my second vaccine. And so
Yeah.
now at this point, I'm fully vaccinated. But listen, sis had on 2 masks, an
Okay.
N95, and a cloth
Okay.
and a
Yes.
shield, and
Yes.
was on the plane like, all right, y'all, I'm going to sleep now because it's early. But yeah, Nashville was a great time. Love New Orleans. I'm going back soon for my birthday.
New
I
Orleans is
can't
one of
wait
my
for that.
favorite cities. A lot
It
of
is such a
luxury
great
things to
city
do. A lot of luxury things to do in New Orleans.
and a lot of luxury eats.
Exactly. That's the main thing.
Listen, that's the main thing. So I'm excited about that. But like you, I've traveled not as extensively as you, but definitely have had some amazing trips.
Yeah.
I got to go to Bangkok. Oh, that was
Thailand.
great. And it takes my nephew to tell the story. So my sister works for United. And so she had gotten me one of her buddy passes and upgraded mine to first class. And I
Yeah.
had flown first class domestically before, but international,
Honey, a
listen,
whole different experience.
a
I've been
whole
there.
different experience.
Yes.
Talking about rich, rich energy.
Did you go back? Now, see, my friend laughed at me because I did first class and very similar. At the time, my best friend upgraded me for like my gift or whatever. She was like, I
Mhm.
upgraded you or whatever. So my friend was in coach, and I'm so petty. I never went back to visit.
Why
Visit.
would I go back and
Yes,
visit them?
it's something, baby. Those international planes. I laid back there and between
Listen,
sleeping and watching movies and chilling. And it's so funny because she told the flight attendant on me, and he was real funny. He come up there, he was like, "Oh, I heard you got a little friend back there that you're not coming to see." I said, "Send her a croissant for me or something." We were
listen,
joking.
I told the flight attendant, please wake me up at every meal. Because
Yeah.
on international flights, they feed you.
Oh, yes, they do.
And
Often.
when you're in business and when you're in first, they feed you really well. It's like, please
Yes.
wake me up for every meal. I'm gonna go to sleep. And even if you think I'm asleep, just wake me up.
Yeah.
It's
I
okay.
want all the snacks, the little cookies, the little in between
Listen,
stuff.
everything. My nephew was like, they were fanning you with palms. I was like, nobody was fanning me with palms, but I'm glad that's what you believe.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Yeah, there's nothing like first class on an international flight. And it
It
was
will
one of those
change your
things where
life.
it's like you never want to fly anything lower than business class again on international.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So definitely something worth making on your list. Okay. So also favorite Beyonce song and why. You know how it goes
I
down.
know, I love my Beyonce. So I always think of my favorite Beyonce songs depending on the stage of my life that I'm in. So
Mm-hmm.
right now, my favorite is Bigger. There's a line where she sings, you know, life is your birthright.
Mm-hmm.
They hid it in the fine print. And so for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
like luxury is
Mm.
your birthright. They hid it in the fine print. They didn't want you to know, but
Yeah.
it's yours. And
Ooh, I
living it
love that.
abundantly, know that, there's something bigger for you to be doing. There's a bigger legacy, there's a bigger work, there are bigger experiences for you to live. And so right now, it's bigger.
I love that. I love it. I love that song. So off the Lion King, the Gift album,
Yes,
bigger.
yes,
Yeah.
bigger.
Okay. So you've mentioned your items that you have in the store. So tell us where on social media that we can find you and tell us about what you have available for everybody with the Rich Rich Energy brand.
Absolutely. So on Instagram, you can find us at rich_energy. On Facebook, we're Rich Rich Energy. We do have a website, richrichenergy.com. And so we are shifting to become more of a lifestyle brand, but right now we have really nice sweatshirts and t-shirts with cool sayings like this one: thicker thighs, thick thighs, thicker wallet.
I love it.
Listen, I like these thick thighs, but that wallet, honey.
Yeah, it needs to be just as thick, if not thicker, than my thighs.
Thicker. Okay. We want it thicker than these thighs.
Exactly.
So just a lot of graphic tees. I have a couple other items on the
Nice.
site as well, besides the tees and the sweats. But definitely check the website out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And ladies, you got to get it. So again, mindset, but also, think about the atmosphere that you set for yourself and
Absolutely.
putting on that shirt that's going to remind you about having a thicker wallet, even if it's thin right now, wear that shirt till you manifest that
Listen,
thicker
you're
wallet.
manifesting it. You are telling God, you're telling the universe what you are hoping for,
Absolutely.
what you are expecting. And that's okay. Like, my prayer is, God, if I'm asking for too little, give me more. Lord, if I'm thinking too small, allow me to think bigger.
And on that, that's a perfect way to end. So thank you, Nicole, for coming on here and helping us to think bigger and live bigger and normalize luxury in our life. And so be sure, everyone, to check the show notes where Nicole has given all of her information. You'll be able to go direct to her website from there. Again, follow her on Instagram, rich_energy. And until next time, I will talk to you then.